if you ask the question, was Francis the right pope for the times? I would say, because the fact is, we need a pope who's actually going to proclaim not just when I say the gospel, of course he proclaimed the gospel, but I think he has to proclaim the truth of the gospel. He has to proclaim grounded in such a way that people know, hey, we're talking about this is the truth. This is the truth about life.
Well, and where I wrote, what I tried to get at in the article is this was sort of an abdication, maybe intentionally, of his own authority as the
not
head of the magisterium. If you're not practically enforcing in some way.
Not ultimately, but the fact, I've said this to people, Catholics who, they take the Pope to be, they have an absolute monarch view.
Right.
But I think, and so when I raised objections about having, I said it's a synod of bishops. Now it's not a synod of bishops. It's a synod of bishops plus laity, blah, blah, blah. Oh, but they would say, but the Pope in the end decides, you see. But I just think that's not what matters. Is not just that the Pope ultimately decides. What matters is what goes into the process. The synodical process of talking about these things, and ultimately you have all these people that I wouldn't have invited. And even bishops and so on that I wouldn't have invited. I think that there are too many bishops and even cardinals. Cardinal Hollerich, who was the relator, who told us he backpedaled on that because I'm sure somebody said to him, "You shouldn't be saying that," about homosexuality and all that, because it's one thing to say, well, the language, intrinsically disordered. Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with the language because it's not just the act; it's also the condition. Doesn't mean that the person is intrinsically disordered. It means that the condition is such that it's ordered to sexual acts that are incapable of being ordered to God. If you don't believe that, well, then you don't. I think you don't believe the scriptures, you don't believe, the teachings of the church, et cetera, et cetera. You just
and it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. I mean, I think back to Lenny's point about how the media really, wanted to pump up and praise.
Who am I to judge?
It's the who am I to judge, which sounds very relativistic, like a theological egalitarianism that I wrote. But also the real. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't as much emphasis, but it certainly seemed like the emphasis on creation care, environmentalism, the environmental agenda,
the Lord liberate us,
which I think also, was reflected in that synod on the Amazon, and where that whole or his the views on immigration and the sort of constant stick against capitalism in general, without getting into maybe specifics.
Right.
It's like it kind of was like he was a man of his time. I mean, I wrote he was a man of his times, not a man for all seasons, because it just kind of was the 1960s and 70s South American shape Jesuit theologian, social activist, clergyman who then that's what he was doing. And
this is why I say in Laudato Si, which is many of the people that love Laudato Si because they see it as, this is environmentalism and this is climate stuff and all this kind of nonsense. I have no idea what climate stuff is, by the way, but all this kind of stuff. No, when I wrote a long article on Laudato Si, integral ecology, the Pope in Laudato Si, if you read it properly, it seems to me, his idea of integral ecology really stands in the line of Benedict and John Paul II, because integral ecology is about the culture, protecting the culture, the conditions under which human beings flourish. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's not just about the earth.
Yes, right.
The earth is not my final, the earth is not the final horizon of my life, So it's about what are the conditions under which human beings flourish? Well, you have to affirm the culture, family, marriage, the body, the Pope is saying there,
Right.
and so on. So all of those things are there, but then it was appropriated, and partly because he misinterpreted his own document. It was all about biodiversity, and then all of the stuff that he came out with had to do with, again, with environment, and as if somehow the final horizon is the Earth, and that's what he he invited.
I remember it was like a 2000. I remember watching a video. I don't know. It might have been in that Wim Wenders documentary. Although I can't remember when that documentary came out. Maybe it was 2016. Maybe it was a couple of years into Francis's papacy already, where there's this image, I'm sure you could find it easily, of, it was an Earth Day or Arbor Day that was being celebrated in St. Peter's Square. And they emblazoned up on the cupola of St. Peter's in laser lights. It was like Mother Earth first or something like this.
I don't know.
And I'm just like, again, the optics and the symbolism there of like, no, Mother Earth is not first.
No, that's why you have to read.
Yeah.
You have to read and take the whole of Francis.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to focus on these kind of things.
Just those things, right.
And then the press thinks, the Catholic Church is changing and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, let's end with two things. One, I mean, what were some positives of France, if you want to highlight any
I think
positive moves that Francis made during his tenure?
He affirms the teaching on the morality of abortion, the immorality of abortion.
Yeah.
He's against such that he called abortionists to be murderers.
Yes, that's right.
He affirms he was against. Again, there's a tension between this and then the practice, because he also affirmed, he didn't think there was any such things as trans kids or transgenderism, and of course homosexuality and so on and so on. But all of that was inconsistent at times with his practice,
Yeah.
And then his commitment to the poor and of course, there's a place for being committed to migrants. I mean, I always distinguish between migrants and illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different people that are migrants that are being driven out of their country for reasons of their lives and so on. So there are a lot of things that the Pope was committed to, which I think is good. It's fine, but there are also, again, confusing things, which is what we've been talking about.